1 week after the horrific tragedy in which Rob Reiner and his wife passed away, Romy and Jake held a funeral for their parents at a private location. Yet, from the very first moments, the event created an almost unbelievable layer of mystery and tension. None of Rob's close friends, those who had stood by him for decades, were invited. Many of them angrily called to ask what was going on, only to receive a cold reply. "My father's funeral is none of your business." Even more shocking was the absence of Rob's adopted daughter, Tracy Reiner, whom he had loved dearly and accompanied throughout many years of her life. Rob's 2 biological children repeatedly insisted that Tracy was merely an outsider and that the fact she had received an inheritance was more than enough, so there was no need for her to attend. So besides Tracy, which other familiar faces were also excluded from the funeral, who was truly rejected and why? 1. Tracy Reiner, the outsider child who was not invited. One of the most shocking details was that Tracy Reiner, the adopted daughter whom Rob had loved wholeheartedly while he was alive, was not present at the funeral. Rob adopted her when Tracy was just 7 years old after marrying her mother, Penny Marshall. From those early days, Rob was not merely a stepfather, but a steady pillar, a warm guiding hand leading the young girl through a turbulent childhood. In their home, Tracy grew up surrounded by laughter stories and the warmth Rob gave her as if they were truly father and daughter by blood. Those early years under the Reiner roof became the foundation that shaped Tracy as a person. Rob always taught her how to look at the world with an open heart, how to appreciate art and how to maintain dignity even in the treacherous environment of Hollywood. He was not only a father but also a companion walking beside her through joyful days as well as through quiet hardships. The bond between Tracy and Rob was also deeply connected through art. Tracy pursued an acting career and appeared in many films directed by either her adoptive father or her mother, from When Harry Met Sally. Directed by Rob to A League of Their Own directed by Penny. Each film, each role was a way for Tracy to feel Rob's love and encouragement, a way for them to accompany each other through every professional milestone. Even after Rob later remarried and had 3 more children, his relationship with Tracy never faded. She continued to see Rob as her father, and he continued to regard her as his own daughter, an inseparable part of the family. They attended premieres together, met with friends and colleagues, and always maintained a strong bond through the passing years. On one rare occasion, when he shared his feelings, Rob once said to Tracy, "You have always been my pride. No matter how the world changes, you will always be my daughter." Those words left Tracy speechless, allowing her to deeply feel the love and protection of the adoptive father who had walked beside her throughout her life. That affection was not only expressed in words, but also in everyday actions. Rob always listened to Tracy, supported her career decisions, and protected her from the storms of Hollywood. Even when geographical distance or work kept them from seeing each other, often their hearts always remained close. When Rob passed away, Tracy felt the loss with overwhelming intensity. A relationship spanning decades suddenly became an emptiness, and she felt as though she had lost not only a father, but also a part of her childhood memories, a companion who had shared every joy and sorrow with her. She cried out through her tears, "Dad, I don't know how to go on without you by my side." However, when Tracy expressed her wish to attend Rob's funeral to say a final goodbye, she was rejected. Heartbreakingly, Rob's 2 biological children, Romy and Jake, completely excluded Tracy Reiner. They believed she was an outsider, someone who did not need to be present, and they did not even bother to inform her in advance. When she realized her name was not on the guest list, Tracy called Romy and Jake, her voice trembling yet patient. "I just want to know if I can come and say goodbye to Dad." That simple, sincere question was met with silence before Romy coldly replied. "You are not invited," Jake added. "We've already decided, Tracy. You shouldn't come. You've already taken Dad's assets." Those words felt like a knife stabbing into Tracy's heart. She stood frozen, her heart shattering into pieces. The sense of loss becoming twice as heavy. Rob had once regarded her as his own daughter, had laughed with her, guided her in art and in life. Yet now, at the final moment to bid him farewell, she was completely erased from her father's funeral. And it was not only Tracy, Rob's closest friend for many years. Billy Crystal was also denied the chance to attend the funeral. 2. Billy Crystal, the best friend who was left outside. Billy Crystal and Rob Reiner first met in the mid-1970s when Crystal appeared in a guest role on All in the Family, the sitcom in which Reiner was playing the character Mike Meathead Stick. What seemed like an ordinary encounter at the time unexpectedly became the beginning of a relationship that would last nearly half a century. From those earliest days, Crystal sensed in Reiner a warmth, intelligence, and humor that he rarely found in other colleagues. After that initial collaboration, they quickly became close friends off-screen. Crystal once recalled that after a filming session, Reiner said to him, "You and I really get along. Why don't we keep in touch?" And that was exactly what they did. They were not only colleagues at work, but true friends in real life, sharing joys, sorrows, and even the most ordinary moments of Hollywood life. Their bond grew even stronger through film projects. Rob Reiner was the one who invited Billy Crystal to take on important roles in classic films such as This Is Spinal Tap and When Harry Met Sally, where Crystal had the opportunity to shine and showcase both his talent and personality. Reiner once said, "No one could play Harry Burns better than Billy. He made the character come alive and unforgettable." Their friendship was never limited to work. At one point, Crystal even moved to live near Reiner so that the two could see each other more often, talking, exchanging ideas, and laughing together like genuine friends. They shared small secrets, behind-the-scenes stories, and even their professional worries, like two kindred spirits connected beyond the glare of the spotlight. Crystal once called Rob the best friend he had ever had in his life. Someone who could always make him laugh, encourage him when he felt discouraged, and listen when he needed a shoulder to lean on. Reiner, in turn, once confided, "Billy, you make me a better version of myself. I'm lucky to have you as a friend." Those words were more than friendship. They were proof of a bond so deep it was almost familial. They also became companions at important events and memorials. When Carl Reiner, Rob's father, passed away, Billy Crystal was among the first to come and offer condolences, standing beside Rob to remember a cherished friend and a respected father. Crystal's presence was a great source of comfort and emotional strength for Rob during those painful moments. Their friendship was further strengthened by shared personal joys. They attended premieres, award ceremonies, and even simple outings or quiet dinners together. Crystal always described those moments with a radiant smile. "Rob makes everything more fun. Just having him around makes the world feel lighter." Over nearly 50 years of companionship, the friendship between Billy Crystal and Rob Reiner stood as a testament to a relationship that went beyond fame, work, or age. It was built on trust, respect, laughter, and even moments of shared heartbreak. They were not just friends, but spiritual allies, sharing a part of life, art, and irreplaceable memories. Immediately after the tragic and sudden news of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle's death spread on the 14th, Billy and his wife Janice drove straight to the house in Brentwood, Los Angeles, where police had sealed off the scene. Upon entering, Billy broke down in sobs beside the body of his friend, holding Rob tightly one last time and whispering emotional words of farewell, while Janice comforted the remaining family members. Just a few days later, when the family was preparing a private funeral, Billy Crystal unexpectedly did not receive an invitation to attend. According to information leaked from within Hollywood circles, this decision came from Rob and Michelle's two remaining children, Jake and Romy Reiner. They were enduring overwhelming grief following the incident involving their brother Nick and wanted to keep the funeral as small as possible, limited strictly to immediate family in order to avoid media attention and curious onlookers. Jake Reiner, the eldest son, was reportedly direct with some close friends, saying that he needed personal space to cope with the double loss, losing both parents while also facing the allegations surrounding his brother. Rami, who was the one to discover the bodies first, also expressed her wish for the funeral to take place quietly without the presence of major stars that might turn it into a public spectacle. The situation surprised and saddened many in the entertainment industry, as Billy Crystal had long been regarded as a member of the family to the Reiners. A close source shared that although Billy was deeply hurt, he understood the extraordinary circumstances and he chose to honor Rob by sharing cherished memories through public statements alongside a small circle of close friends. 3. Mel Brooks. Advanced age and frail health, fearing he might pass away at the funeral. Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner were legends of American comedy bound by a friendship that lasted more than half a century, formed in the earliest days of television and theater. Together, they created 2000-Year-Old Man, a classic work that anyone familiar with American comedy can never forget. Their friendship not only connected them professionally, but also became a deep spiritual bond where every smile and every joke was proof of the harmony between two brilliant minds. Rob Reiner grew up in that atmosphere with his father Carl and his father's close friend Mel Brooks, constantly present. From a young age, Rob witnessed humorous moments, all-night storytelling sessions, and roaring laughter shared by two men who would later become legends. Those experiences shaped Rob into who he was. A man who loved art, cherished friendship, and bonded with his collaborators with his whole heart. Gradually, a relationship also developed between Brooks and Rob. They talked shared professional experiences, and Brooks slowly became a friend and an indirect mentor to Rob through many professional gatherings and memorial events honoring Carl Reiner. Over the years, Rob and Mel occasionally appeared together at award ceremonies, memorial services, or events commemorating Carl. Mel often came to the house in Brentwood for dinner with Rob and his family, sharing warm, meaningful moments together. When Carl Reiner passed away, both Mel Brooks and Rob Reiner attended the memorial events. Brooks stood beside Rob, his eyes filled with sorrow, but also with gratitude for a lifelong companion. He often said to Rob, "You are the living legacy of your father, and I am proud to witness that." Those words were not merely memories, but a spiritual passing of the torch between two generations of American comedy. In 2025, when Rob Reiner left this world, Mel Brooks, now 99 years old, having endured many years of upheaval and health challenges, faced an invisible kind of pain. But age forced Brooks to stand aside. He understood that if he attended the funeral, if he saw Rob, if he broke down in tears, his body would not be able to withstand that pain and emotional shock. This decision doubled the sense of loss, not only the pain of losing a friend, but also the helplessness of a body no longer strong enough to face the funeral. Brooks whispered to himself, "I wish I still had the strength to hold you one more time, but this body won't allow it." 4. Me Ryan, a grudge that began many years ago. The relationship between Me Ryan and Rob Reiner began perfectly in 1988 when Rob cast her as Sally Albright in When Harry Met Sally. On set, they quickly found common ground. Rob often laughed loudly at Me's spontaneous ideas while she admired his gentle yet incisive directing style. One afternoon at Katz's Delicatessen after filming the famous fake orgasm scene, Rob patted me on the shoulder and said, "You just made rom-com history, Me. Thank you for trusting me." Me replied with a radiant smile, "No, thank you for giving me the chance to become Sally." In the years that followed, they maintained a warm connection. Whenever the film was commemorated its 20th, 25th, and then 30th anniversaries, Meg, Rob, and Billy Crystal appeared together at events. At the 2019 TCM Classic Film Festival, Rob introduced me on stage. "This is the woman who made the whole world believe that men and women can be friends before falling in love." Me hugged him and whispered loud enough for the microphone to catch, "You're still my favorite director, Rob." The audience applauded endlessly and everyone believed this friendship would last forever. But behind the public smiles, a small crack had quietly formed stemming from that very film. According to people close to them, Rob Reiner had never been completely satisfied with one decision Mag made during filming. Specifically, in the climactic New Year's Eve party scene, Mag had changed a few lines of dialogue at the end without discussing it with Rob beforehand. A line about true love that she felt was more authentic than the original script. Rob simply nodded in silence at the time, but later confided to Billy Crystal. "She thought she understood the character better than I did the person who wrote the story. That hurt me." That crack slowly widened over time. When Me Ryan went through a difficult period in her career and personal life in the 2000s, Rob never publicly criticized her, but he privately told a few close friends that he felt Me had betrayed the spirit of the film by shifting toward more serious roles, moving away from the optimistic Sally image he had worked so hard to create. Rob kept these feelings hidden for many years, even continuing to smile and speak warmly whenever he encountered Me at events. He did not want to hurt her, nor did he want to tarnish the legacy of the film. Billy Crystal was one of the few people who knew this secret. On one occasion during a dinner celebrating the film, Billy tried to mediate. "Rob, Mag has always said, you're the one who changed her career." Rob merely gave a faint smile and replied, "I know, but some things don't need to be said. Mag never knew that Rob had carried that small, quiet resentment in his heart for 3 decades. After Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle passed away suddenly, Ryan immediately posted a moving tribute on Instagram accompanied by an old photo of the two of them dancing on set. She wrote, "Thank you for believing in true love and fairy tales and in laughter." But just a few days later, Mag received a polite message from the Reiner family's assistant stating that the funeral would be limited to immediate family and only a few very close friends. The real reason, according to a source close to the family, came from Romy Reiner, Rob's eldest daughter. Amid the chaos of grief, Romy reportedly spoke frankly to the funeral organizer. "My father didn't truly like me, Ryan, as much as people think. He carried that feeling to the end of his life, but he once told me that she changed the most important line of the film without asking for his approval. He felt disrespected." Romy, overwhelmed by immense sorrow, decided to honor that unspoken wish of her father by not sending an invitation to Mag. Afterward, Meg continued to speak only kind words, never knowing that a single altered line of dialogue from 1989 had silently created an irreparable distance between the two of them. And besides Meg, there was also another actress who had fallen out with Rob Reiner, Kiefer Sutherland. 5. Albert Brooks. Fear that sensitive truths would be exposed. Few friendships have been as enduring and profound as the one between Rob Reiner and Albert Brooks. They first met when they were just 14 years old in a drama class at Beverly Hills High School. Those two teenagers, full of unformed dreams and eager laughter, immediately gravitated toward one another like kindred spirits, unaware that their friendship would last for more than 6 decades. From the very beginning, they shared everything. The carefree jokes on school grounds, the small joys and sorrows of adolescence, and artistic dreams brimming with hope. Their friendship did not fade with youth, but instead grew alongside their artistic careers. Rob Reiner went on to become a highly respected director and actor, while Albert Brooks carved out his own path as a comedian, screenwriter, and actor. Even when work occasionally pulled them in different directions, their bond never weakened. They maintained the habit of talking, sharing, and laughing together like the two boys they once were. Despite the pressures and separate successes of their adult lives, they collaborated directly only once on the film The Muse 1999. Yet that did nothing to distance them. On the contrary, the limited collaboration highlighted the depth of their mutual respect and understanding. Rob once invited Brooks to take part in When Harry Met Sally, but Brooks declined in order to preserve his own artistic identity, a decision Reiner understood and respected. This sense of flexibility, independence, and mutual respect became the hallmark of their friendship, something no purely professional relationship could ever replace. The pinnacle of their bond was captured in the documentary Albert Brooks Defending My Life, directed by Rob Reiner in 2023. In the film, the two lifelong friends sit together in conversation, recalling memories, laughing, and expressing admiration for one another. Reiner emphasized that no one generated comedic energy quite like Brooks. While Brooks praised Reiner as the longest-lasting and most important friend of his life, in one particularly moving scene, Brooks looks directly at Reiner and says, "Rob, you've always understood me better than anyone." To which Reiner smiles and replies, "And I'll always be here to listen to you laugh." The film was not only a tribute to Brooks, but also a testament to a friendship that had endured for more than half a century, transcending all professional boundaries. Even as their careers became long and complex, they preserved a simple intimacy like two teenagers walking out of drama class together. They reminisced about old classroom chairs, youthful jokes, and unfinished dreams. And in those moments, time itself seemed to stand still. When Rob Reiner passed away in 2025, Albert Brooks could not hide his deep anguish. He could hardly believe that the friend who had been by his side since adolescence was gone. In shock and sorrow, he cried out, "Rob, you left me behind. How am I supposed to laugh anymore?" This was not merely the loss of a person, but the loss of a friendship that had lived, breathed, and laughed with them for an entire lifetime. Yet, even more painful was the fact that at Rob's funeral, Albert Brooks, the soulmate friend of more than 6 decades, was not invited to attend. The truth struck Brooks like a knife through the heart. He called Reiner's 2 children, Romy and Jake, hoping at the very least to be present to say goodbye to his closest friend. But the responses from the two children were cold and unyielding. "You are not invited." Albert Brooks, who had been so close to Rob Reiner for so many years, was left stunned. In his heart, the funeral represented the final chance to honor a dear friend. But now every door seemed to slam shut before him. He could not understand how a bond so deep, one forged through countless projects and everyday memories, could be dismissed with such chilling finality. According to internal rumors, the reason lay in Romy's fear that Brooks might reveal sensitive behind-the-scenes stories about how the two children had treated their parents poorly. Long-buried secrets, years of simmering tension, and uncomfortable family moments, if exposed, could turn the funeral into a public reckoning rather than a solemn remembrance of Rob Reiner. Romy wanted complete control over the atmosphere, fearing that Albert's lifelong closeness to Rob would make it impossible for him to restrain his emotions and keep those terrible truths hidden. In Romy's mind, the funeral had to proceed perfectly and exactly according to the plan set by the two siblings, without emotional outbursts or details that might unsettle the guests. Even knowing that excluding Albert Brooks was a cruel and deeply hurtful decision, she remained resolute in maintaining that distance. And it was not only Albert. Another figure whom Romy completely excluded was Mel Brooks, the longtime friend of both her grandfather Carl Reiner and Rob himself. 6. Kiefer Sutherland. The man who committed an unforgivable offense in Rob's eyes. The relationship between Kiefer Sutherland and Rob Reiner began in a striking way in 1985 when a young Kiefer, then only 18 years old and still struggling to find his footing in the industry, walked into the audition room for Stand By Me. Rob Reiner immediately saw potential in the sharp intensity of Kiefer's eyes and cast him as Ace Merrill without a second thought. After the audition, Rob pulled Kiefer aside and said, "You've got fire in you, Kiefer. Don't let anyone put it out." Kiefer later recalled that this single sentence changed his life, turning Rob into a mentor he deeply admired. They worked together a second time in A Good Men in 1992, where Kiefer played the rigid Lieutenant Kendrick. On set, Rob often took time to guide Kiefer personally, especially during the tense scenes opposite Jack Nicholson. One day, while filming the legendary "You Can't Handle the Truth" scene after a perfect first take, Rob leaned over and whispered to Kiefer, "We struck gold today, my friend. Let's go grab a beer to celebrate." Kiefer laughed loudly and replied, "Only if you lead the way, teacher." That moment became a cherished memory Kiefer would later recount with emotion. Over the years, even though they did not see each other often, Kiefer always expressed his gratitude publicly. In interviews, he referred to Rob as one of the kindest gentlemen I've ever worked with, emphasizing that those two films formed the foundation of his career. When a special documentary about Rob aired on CBS in late December 2025, Kiefer appeared with a trembling voice, saying, "Rob wasn't just a director. He believed in kids like me when no one else did." Yet behind that public reverence, a small secret had quietly existed for nearly 4 decades. According to people close to the Reiner family, Rob had long been deeply unsettled by an incident on the Stand By Me set that he never fully forgave Kiefer for. Specifically, during the final chase scene of the film, Kiefer took it upon himself to add a more violent action than what was in the script. He threw a real beer bottle toward the group of children instead of pretending to do so as directed. The bottle shattered, nearly causing minor injury to River Phoenix's hand. Rob immediately stopped filming and shouted, "We're making a film about childhood, not some cheap action movie." Although Kiefer apologized right away, and the scene was ultimately kept because of its raw authenticity, Rob carried a lingering sense of having been disrespected. Years later, he confided privately to Billy Crystal, "Kiefer is immensely talented, but sometimes he lets adrenaline take over. I was afraid he might hurt the kids on set." Rob never confronted Kiefer directly. Instead, he quietly maintained a certain distance after filming wrapped, even while continuing to praise him publicly. For this reason, Kiefer was also not invited. Romy Reiner, Rob's eldest daughter, during a time of unbearable grief, spoke candidly to the funeral organizer. "My father never truly forgave Kiefer for what happened on the Stand By set. He told me he was terrified Kiefer almost seriously hurt River and he didn't want someone who caused him that fear to be present at his funeral." 7. Barry Marowitz, when a quiet compliment became a crime. Barry Marowitz was not only a frequent cinematographer collaborator with Rob on projects such as Being Charlie LBJ Shock and or an Albert Brooks Defending My Life, but was also regarded by the Reiner family as one of their own. Every time Barry came to Los Angeles, Rob would insist, "Don't you dare stay in a hotel, Barry. My house has a fridge full of food, good toilet paper, and a whole family waiting for you." Barry would laugh and reply, "All right, but this time I'm bringing good wine." Just weeks before the tragedy in November 2025, Barry stayed at the Reiner home for 5 nights to prepare for a film premiere. He later described that time as one big love fest, long family-style dinners, the roar of basketball games on TV, bursts of laughter as the dog ran circles around the living room, an atmosphere so warm it made one believe everything was fine. Nick Reiner, who at the time appeared calm and polite, came across as the model son taking out the trash without being asked, washing dishes, pouring water for guests. In that moment, Barry made a mistake he would later never imagine the consequences of. He looked at Nick, smiled, and casually offered a compliment. It was an innocent remark, uncalculated and unguarded, yet powerful enough to plant the seeds of resentment. Barry did not understand that to Romy and Jake, that compliment was far from harmless. After the tragedy, when everything collapsed and Nick came to be called by the name they never wanted to utter, murderer, the memory of Barry was instantly cast in a different light. In their eyes, he was no longer an old family friend, but the man who had dared to praise the person who killed their parents right in their own home. Rami told friends she could not bear the image of Barry standing there once looking at Nick with pride. He praised him. She repeated over and over as if delivering a verdict beyond appeal. He praised him and now people expect me to let him come and mourn my parents. Amid the chaos and numbing pain of the mourning period, Romy spoke bluntly to the funeral organizer. No evasions, no negotiations. Barry is not invited. The reason had nothing to do with the past or old bonds, but revolved around one single fact. He was the man who had spoken kindly about Nick. To Romy, that was unforgivable. Jake fully agreed, even more vehemently, arguing that Barry's presence would be an insult, a cruel reminder that there was once a time when Nick was viewed with hope. They wanted the funeral to be a place of complete severance from that name, from every memory that once made people believe he could be saved. And so Barry was crossed off the list, becoming someone forbidden to enter the funeral space. Not because he committed an evil act, but because he had misjudged an evil man at a time when no one could tolerate such a mistake anymore. Looking back at Rob Reiner's funeral, it is impossible not to mention the close friends and longtime colleagues who were absent in that final moment. Despite decades of shared history, from Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal to several other longtime collaborators, their absence left behind a painful sense of loss. A feeling of emptiness and heartbreak hung in the air as if an entire generation of memories, laughter, and friendship had been frozen at the moment of the funeral. Even though they were not present, the memory of Rob Reiner and his profound relationships remains vivid in their hearts and in the minds of audiences. The story of those absences invites reflection on the value of friendship, respect, and the irreplaceable nature of final moments. Sorrow intertwined with regret stands as a testament to the far-reaching impact Reiner left behind, not only through his films, but through the lives he touched. We would like to extend our gratitude to everyone who loved Rob Reiner, who worked with him, and who shared moments of life with him. Have you ever experienced the pain and emptiness of being unable to say goodbye to someone important? Please share your feelings and memories in the comments below so that Rob Reiner's story does not end in memory alone but continues to live on through our shared reflections.